Hey, this is your girl DJ, CEO and owner of Build, Rise, and Thrive, where the mission is building bridges to access excellence. Now, you're listening to Through Concrete. New listeners, welcome to the community. Returning listeners, welcome back. You already know the flow. Now, we're here to move the needle forward by finding out where we've been, where we're going, and what we're doing. Together, let's make a breakthrough. Hey y'all, so you saw the title of the episode. You know what we're going through today. You already know what Build, Rise, and Thrive is, and you know what Through Concrete is about. So I'm going to share with you guys how, I build, because the goal here is to build those bridges. Now, the reason I want to share it with you guys is because it's not enough when people give you the resource, and I think that's kind of where we are, is that everybody wants to tell you the gold nuggets. They want to give you this shiny piece that you have to spend money for. And the most frustrating part about it is that they never show you the bridge to get there, and the bridge is usually the part that is the hardest, and of course we want to make that your marketing gimmick. And the idea is that if you spend enough money, if you climb this mountain with me, I'm going to get you there. But the challenge there is that you're always reaching. And I'm going to just tell you flat out, yes, you're always reaching, because you always have to have something in front of you that you're working toward. However, here's what is never explained. If you have a strong foundation to work from, you're never restarting from square one. And in Build, Rise, and Thrive, and here with Through Concrete, the idea and the big picture is that having that strong foundation and understanding what your values are at the core, and being able to define why you have rooted in these values unequivocally will support you in understanding how you're moving forward and what the path forward for you means. And it really begins to clarify the people in your circle. You become more objective to the decisions that you make, and you're more clear about when you're wrong. You can be wrong, and that's okay. And I think we've gotten to a space where we don't like to be wrong. We don't like to be rejected. We don't like to be able to open ourselves up and say, you know what, I made a wrong choice and I need to pivot a little bit. So we're going to get into that. And I want to do that through sharing my story. And you're going to hear my values, because I only have 3, and I thought I had more, but I only have 3 that I work from, that I think I didn't recognize I had until recently, as my life continues to kind of transition and more things come to light as I continue to kind of move and change chapters and kind of look at where I am right now, right? So I'm not gonna waste more time. I'm gonna just jump right in, right? So for me specifically, my space currently, I work in human and social services. And I love what I do. This was not my chosen path. This is not what I thought I was going to be doing. I wanted, however, to be around people. I love engaging with people. I think previously I loved engaging with others, and I wanted to find a way to help others because I felt like there was something I was missing within me. I often times try to control others' narrative of me. That's something I just always wanted to do, because I didn't understand why people wanted to say what they wanted to say about me, and it just always bothered me. So if you've ever met me, if you've ever been around me, I can be very headstrong. I can be really dominant in a space because I know what I want and I'm very clear about it. But I will be really I can be really laid back, and I can just kind of let things happen. And that's who I am today. That's not who I was before. However, I used to be the person in the room who would allow others to run the show, but I believe that my physical presence was not perceived that way. And I would have others take advantage of me simply just being in that space. I was oftentimes kind of showboated about or just shown off just because of my skill set at the time. So just to be clear, I was I've been in a couple of I've been in different fields of work. I think we all can share that we've done a number of different things, and I love trying new things. And I've not shared it often because, and I'm working to be more open about it, but I have ADHD and I have ADD. Now, this is something I've noticed like all across TikTok, all across Instagram, like all across social media. Everybody's sharing like either they have it or had it or it's become a thing. And I know each of our experiences are different. For me specifically, it's something I did not share. For me, I tried to put it aside because I did not have the greatest experience growing up with it. I was stigmatized negatively by my teachers in school, by my family members, for just trying to cope in a space. And then on top of being left-handed in schools, I was forced to try and change. So it was really challenging for me. I can't imagine what that was like for my mom to try and cope and not feel embarrassed by having me with her. I know she tried her best, but socially I could understand why she kind of wanted to have me want to blend in at some point. And I can't really speak to her experience. However, for me, and as I got older, I would have teachers simply tell me to stop, not use that as an excuse. I would continue to try and hold myself together. However, it's really difficult and challenging when you have ADHD and you're heavily medicated constantly throughout school and going into your teenage and adult years or whatever, and the medication was making me sick, and it was really hard to focus. I could not go out on family outings without medication because my family felt like I would embarrass them, even when I was trying. And all of this, I felt like I was like just always, I felt like I was just I always felt like I was running and like just standing still at the same time, like just always in my head. I don't know how to explain it. I felt like I was constantly being controlled, and I don't know how to now currently process a lot of it. I thought I did, always being in therapy, but it's really challenging. We talk now more freely in a space where there's help, there's support around all of this, but it was not that way before. As I got older, I became more rebellious because I was sick. I was getting sick from a lot of this. And having ADD and having ADHD was not the only challenge I was faced with. I also have respiratory diseases that I also deal with. And so having my mom support me in those spaces as well was challenging, and having to always have medication on hand to deal with those were challenging because I always engaged in sports or high energy activities. So I was not limited, but I always had to be careful. And I was always faced with challenges, backlash, and discrimination to play these games or engage in these activities, because I did play soccer. I did engage in gymnastics, and I did engage in dance. and I did travel. So these were things that I refused to let get in my way. But I was talked about and I was like pushed aside. To paint a more clearer picture for you, I was always the tallest person. I am Black, and I'm not the skinniest person in the room currently. However, I was at that time very slender and tall, so I was kind of lanky. But going into my teenage years and beginning to work, my supervisors would be well aware of my conditions and I would be discriminated against. And not knowing how to navigate those spaces became a challenge. Going into my early adult years and disclosing this information, I was still discriminated against. And I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't know how to deal with being in the workplace with that information, and understanding that some of these places could be rumor mills. It's hard as a young person. So like, what do you do? How do you figure it out? And now being in my 30s, I'm more empowered to like deal with it. But of course, it's always like, hindsight is 20/20. So you don't know how to handle it. What I have now figured out, and I empower my children to do, is to take the opportunity to learn, stand up for yourself, and understand that information is a tool. Use your family as a tool. I felt like I didn't have a voice then, and how I build my strong foundations now is through resilience, flexibility, and nuance. I want to pause right here, you guys, because I want to dive into how I'm doing that now, but I wanted to share with you my story because I wanted to share the breakdown of like what that looked like for me, and the pain and frustration, because I did not know. And so it's a lot to share. I know it's like weird, but I want to pause right here. We're gonna have that ad. It's like 2 minutes. Y'all are not gonna die. Like, let's get through this ad real quick. We're gonna come right back, and I'm gonna share with you guys how I built on resilience, flexibility, and nuance, because I honestly feel like we need it today. So now that we're back, let's just jump right into this. So like I shared with you guys, my core values as I see them and as they have aligned with me are resilience, flexibility, and nuance. And so I want to start off with nuance, because I think where we are today is there's so many things happening where we don't recognize that two things can be true at one time. I think we're so wrapped up in either one thing can be true or the other thing can be true. But we have to really just take a second to understand two things can be true at one time, and that should not stop us coming to a solution. Understanding that everybody is going to have their own opinion. One thing we cannot forget, though, is that fact is objective, which means regardless of your opinion, fact is fact. Okay? So, nuance for me, specifically when I think about nuance, is, the things that go on in my life right now. If I were to make a large decision in my life, which I'm planning to, you guys, like that is the goal. Like, I'm planning on moving forward, whether it's this next great opportunity that I hope to tell you guys about in the next couple months or next couple weeks. There's a lot of nuances to that, because two things can be true at the same time. Hell, three things could be true at the same time. And forgive the noises in the background again. I live in the city, so bear with me. I have to look at the big picture. And while this is my vision, there are other people at play. And regardless of who is at play, regardless of who is trying to do what around me, I have to stay focused. And so I can't care about what other people are doing. They can do it and it can be true. Sure, fine, whatever. but I know what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. So two things can be true at one time. However, what am I focused on? Where am I like putting my energy? Where am I looking at the next piece of the puzzle? What am I doing? What does that look like? We can focus on more than one thing at a time. And that nuance is really, really important when looking at situations. The next part of that nuance, though, comes accountability, but that's a conversation for another day. We're not ready to get into that, right? So we're just talking about the values and that foundation, and we have to be willing to understand nuance. But we can't lose it every time it doesn't fit the situation, right? Every time something comes my way, I have to be okay with saying, you know what? If this is my value, I have to understand all things or all parts of this have to be heard equally and fairly. There may be some nuance to this. It could be black and white, but let me hear all the parts. Let me hear all the moving pieces to this before I give an answer. Okay? So for me specifically, I have nuance. The next value for me is flexibility. I know what it's like when I bull and rush through things that just are sight unseen, and I just want to do it my way and no one else matters. I begin to burn bridges. I begin to not see who's getting hurt in the process. When I talk about flexibility, this really has hurt me because I'm hurt. And I think we all talk about like different sayings and things that we've heard. And I think if I share one, I think we've all heard it before. It's like hurt people. Like that right there kind of, like, I think that vibes with everybody, right? Hurt people. And when I talk about flexibility, that right there is what I mean. Like hurt people. Flexibility matters. You might want it your way, but tone matters. Why do you feel the way you feel when you're going into a situation? You may feel strongly, but who are you impacting in that process? Like, why are you coming at it the way you're coming at it? Other people may approach you aggressively, but do you know why they're approaching you aggressively? Are you making an assumption, or have you really just taken time to like understand why this is what it is, right? Because some people can come at you and they're not really coming at you. It could be just like you could just be that person that day, and you just need to take a beat. Like just take a second, and you could be that person just strong enough to handle it, and just like push it to the side because it ain't really for you. But we're always ready to just be at a 10 and just like pop off, and we don't have to. You really just don't have to, and it's unnecessary. And so to be flexible is just really important. And it's something I had to learn because I wasn't always that person, and I was always that person in the past who wanted to pop off. I was always looking for something to go in the opposite direction. I was always looking for somebody to just change what I wanted. I was always looking for somebody who wanted to go against me because they didn't want to hear me. And I think this goes to me in the past not feeling seen or heard, or moreover understood, right? I felt like I wasn't any of those. So if you didn't fall in my bucket, if you weren't in my amen corner, oh, please get out of my way. But I gotta be flexible. If you can't be honest with me and tell me when I'm wrong at times, you're not good for me. And there is growth in being told that there is room for you to be wrong. There is growth in you having to kind of deal with that sting of pain and rejection, even though we don't like it. Like it's okay. And sometimes what stops us is sometimes being told like, hey, there is room for growth. We have to look at this a little bit differently. The risk that you're taking is a big one, and we want to make sure that we do it right. And so maybe your timing is off. We have to be flexible to those things because there may be people who want to be in your corner, but recognize that there's a cliff coming and you don't see that cliff because you're just looking to the sky and you don't see it. And we have to sometimes think about that. Again, your goal, your vision, nobody sees it better than you do, but let's keep all things considered. It sounds a little weird, but just keep in mind of who's in your corner. And that, again, when we think about how we build strong foundations, it's not just the values, it's the people. And so for me specifically, when I think about the people and not just the values, I want to make sure the people I keep close to me sit close to my values. I want to make sure that the people who sit close to me understand nuance. I want to make sure that the people who sit close to me understand flexibility and who understand resilience. Because this last piece, when we go into resilience, I believe it speaks volumes because that's actually where we're headed. Because honestly, there is no hard way to work through some of these challenges. And I shared a little bit of my story because, again, I shared with you all in the beginning of this is that I'm currently in human and social services, but that is not where I thought I was going to end up. And there are so many lessons learned, and it's not for this episode, but of how I ended up here. I spoke it into existence, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't have all the pieces to the puzzle. And I feel like it was a lesson learned that I ended up here. And in doing so, my eyes and my heart has been open. And relationships have been changed and evolved. To be on the journey of finding what your foundation is means that you have to be willing to step back. And none of us want to do that because we feel like we're going to lose. And the question we're going to have to ask ourselves is, are you willing to lose a little now